The Lord in His providence has brought us together on this first Saturday of the month of Our Lady in the centenary year of Fatima. A huge number of people is going to Fatima at this time of year, and we're having also the canonization of the youngest children to be canonized, not martyrs, in the church. So Our Lady chose these little people. She chose tiny children to be the eyes of big people. And do you know that we priests have the experience that actually, in a way, it's not surprising? Because in good families, families where there's lots of prayer, lots of grace, good teaching, and no contamination, and good protection from the outside world, quite often the little people, especially in the early years, are extremely close to the angels, to Our Blessed Lady, and to Jesus, the Good Shepherd. Why? Because their souls are very similar to the angels. You know that the soul is not like the body. The body comes from Daddy and Mammy by normal processes. But once that starts to happen, God is obliged to each time intervene. And He implants an immortal soul. And that is quite different from the body. The soul is like the angels. And you know some of the qualities that angels have? Do you know what is meant by the gift of agility? Agility. Do you know what it means? Can you guess? What is an agile object? What does it do? Well, can a little birdie be agile? What would he be doing? At what speed? Exactly. Well, agility is a special term which means that spirits, angels and souls, can move from A to B at the speed of what? Can you guess? Well, light has a speed and they measure it. Can you think of something which is even faster? What's in your head? Anything at all? Anyone at home?
Aeroplane.
Well, an aeroplane has speed, you see, it's going from A to B, and speed is measured in distance over time. But you go out of the field of physics into the field of angels and what? What's in your head supposed to be?
Science.
Now, in your head, now what's inside your grey matter? What do you do inside your head?
Think.
You think. Now, what is thought? What is it? Well, in this world, it's dependent on the brain. But once the blood vessels stop nourishing the brain, and it stops being, it's going to release the soul, isn't it? Our soul is going to be separated once it's no longer dependent on the body. And therefore the soul is going to have its own life without the brain. And the proof of that actually has come to the surface recently. Do you know how? Do you know what happens in the operating table when somebody dies? Can you guess? Well, the soul it comes out, doesn't it? It comes out and it sees the body, but they've been monitoring these experiences because they have to control things, and they've found that there's proof now that the soul is not dependent on the brain for its existence. Once it started to be, the soul will go on without the brain. Now that's very important. So, the fastest thing that we can imagine is not the speed of light, but the speed of what?
Soul.
Yes, the soul and, in general,
Brain.
yeah, but not the brain because that's physical, but what goes on in the brain? You said it?
Think.
Yeah, thinking, thought. So that's where I was landing. these spirits can move, yes, from A to B with the speed of thought. So just imagine now a soul whizzing from the highest corner of heaven down to earth, boom, just by the thought. So that's what the angels do. And do you know that St. Thomas Aquinas, the great theologian, had a whole treatise on angels, and he came up with this. He was analysing all this realm of what happens with the angel's thoughts, and he asked strange questions like, where is an angel when he's not in ministry, like your guardian angel? And you know the answer that he gave? In one word in Latin, he said, nilibi, nowhere. In other words, place is the thing that we think of. We quite understand what the angels are up, and what the whole dimension of the beyond is a big question mark, which we understand only fully when we're there. But anyway, there's a huge number of angels around. People say it's probably kind of infinite, massive, huge. They're all over the place. So, now, what I want to say is this, that the children, you people, the closer you are to your birth, the closer you are to that moment in which God, as he made angels from nothing, but they were made, they're not eternal in their origin, so too, when he beams us into existence, there's something huge going on there. He beams his image into the new invented soul, which will no longer stop being. And he says, as it were, go on your journey, but come back to me. And the soul comes out of that experience sort of knowing it. Now you people who are close to it, you've just come from there, and you somehow know, yes, I belong there. I've come from God, and you somehow know that God is. You ask a child, and the child always believes in God. Instinctively now. They can't word it, they can't voice it, but they know, they've been there. So that's what the child is, that's what you are. So now do you understand why Our Lady chose this tiny one? Now they were only tiny now when they start having experiences, and chose them to be the angels of the earth to see things for us. Now can you remember one thing they saw in Fatima? One of the secrets actually. And they were scared. Do you know what it was? Yeah. Now, is it not strange for us human beings that the most wonderful mother of all should want to show them that awful place? Would it not seem strange? People would say that. But how would you answer it? Well, it's like if you're... I'll tell you a story. A few years ago, there was in America... actually, they were Catholic, unfortunately. They were young men, kind of naughty. But they were from Catholic families. I know that because of what happened afterwards. They, one time, decided to have a joyride. Any idea what a joyride is in American terms? Well, they get hold of a car and they go at a reckless speed to make the adrenaline flow. Recklessly, pressing the maximum down on the accelerator. Just have a good time. Excitement. The only thing was, they got onto a highway and they didn't know what was at the end because it was not quite finished. And it was just kind of nearly finished, sort of. But this gentleman could see what was going to happen, and he could see these joyriders, and he was trying to flag them down, warn them furiously what was ahead. And they poked fun at him. And on they went and put the accelerator down. Can you imagine where they ended?
Crash.
A big crash. So all 4 or 5 of them went whizzing into the beyond in one fraction of a second and woke up before whatever it was on the other side, and they're still there. Now, it's rather like that. Our Lady is like that good man, trying to warn us the track that we're on and where it's leading. So it was a great mercy, showing the reality of the beyond, especially in that context. Remember what was going on when she appeared in 1917? What was going on in Europe at the time? Do you remember? The war. And she was saying the soldiers soon will be coming back, 1 more year to go. But she was also trying to warn them that a lot of these soldiers weren't necessarily ending up in a good place because they weren't always prepared. Now, if that's the case, because a lot of them were prepared because they knew that death was ahead and therefore they were taking it seriously, but a lot weren't. A lot of swearing went on in the trenches because men becoming men, they become very heavy, thick. So it wasn't the best way to go. but also out there she could see the whole planet. And this I've heard it, but I've not been able to verify it. If you find it yourself, tell me. But I was told recently that the children also saw some strange thing when they saw that place. Now, as I say, I haven't been able to verify it, but apparently they saw this kind of snow thing on top, and they didn't know what it was, and they were given to understand that they were souls going down there like snowflakes. So that's frightening. So it's a good fright, because it's like that car going into the dangerous place. We need to be warned, and a priest has to warn. It's not automatic, and sin has its consequences. So in that context, Fatima is serious. Fatima is for our time, because the big issue has never changed and never